this is what kicked off a big kerfuffle following the death of Kibra MP Ken Okoth. May his soul rest in peace. And in this, we are not in any way trying to be disrespectful to the family. And we, of course, condole with the family. But this is a story that was handled by the media and with some reservations from the audience. And that's why we are revisiting it. Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko claimed to know that of a love affair of the late legislator in Nairobi MCA Ann Dhumbi, with whom they are said to have gotten a child. This was all last week during one of Kibra MP Ken Okoth's memorial service, the late memorial service at Moi Girls School in Nairobi. This is what he said.
Mwaka wa 2013 Ken aliponialika kufanya medical camp pale Kibra. Hiyo ilikuwa ni medical camp ya Sonko Rescue Team. Kulikuwa na manases warembo wa Sonko Rescue Team. Na kwa sababu Ken alikuwa rafiki yangu, nitakuwa nimemkosea. Mahali ataenda kulala atanichukia, na mimi nilijua ukweli. Ken alipenda Sonko Rescue Team nasa ambaye anaitwa Anita. Hii siasa ya 2017, Ken aliniambia, "Governor, wewe ni rafiki yangu, nominate bibi yangu mdogo Ann Dhumbi kwa bunge la county la Nairobi." Ken mali analala hana raha. Mtoto wake anateseka kabla azikwe. Kwa hivyo mimi naomba recognition kwa niaba ya mtoto ya Ken Okoth.
We start with you, Julie. Because most of this was live and across most of the media houses, if this was playing out on your station and you were calling the shots, would you ask for the live broadcast to stop, or would you let it play on?
Absolutely, absolutely. At best, it was a breach of confidence between friends, assuming that my governor, Sonko, was a friend of Ken Okoth. At worst, it was too much information. It was not in the public interest. We did not need to know. It was a funeral. His wife of 21 years was present. It was not the time to bring up the situation. If he's saying he's looking out for the woman, she had all the time while her child was growing up to find a way for that child to be provided for by the child's father. She did not. She waited until the funeral, and it became a spectacle. It was completely out of order and disrespectful. And with all due respect to Mike Sonko, it was not his place to divulge that information to the public. It was none of our business.
And was it in our business to relay the same, because that carried the day?
I would have absolutely put off that broadcast, because now it detracted completely from the funeral of a member of parliament whose wife was present, and shifted our attention to this other woman who we had not met for the duration of his term in office, did not know her or her child, and then made her into focus the story on her. Even for her herself and her child. What kind of publicity is that? When her child grows up, what is she going to tell him? What about all the trolls and the social media comments and the blogs who will just throw in his face what happened at his father's funeral, assuming that is his father?
Right.
That is absolute trauma. I think it was just beyond the pale.
You've been an editor before for a station. What would you do in this situation?
I have to start by, before I get is that, yes, there is that quick reaction that you can miss, because it is a normal funeral. You never expect that to happen. So it's normal that an error could have happened. But I would say that critically, and that is why I say, let's not hide behind what you'll do in that situation, because after that, at least every editor in this country has run the clip several times. Therefore, we cannot hide behind the situation. I want to read from our little Bible that things concerning a person's home, family, religion, tribe, health, sexuality, personal life, and private affairs are covered by the concept of privacy, except where they impinge on the public. And the public interest should not merely be used to support morbid curiosity, you know that, and that is here. So yes, you may have failed to act that, because that is, you know, covering certain politicians is a special gift of the spirit you need. But I will judge you not based on whether you cover that or not, because that you can easily defend yourself, isn't it? Did you run the clip several times thereafter? Yes, and therefore I would say don't hide that it was live and you would have pulled it off and all that. You have perpetuated it further.
Okay.
Because people came to the prime time and saying, aliongea, let's wait to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you guys replayed it again and again. So let's not hide about a live
No, he was asking me
No,
a
no,
personal
she
question.
said she would kill
I
it
said I
if
would
it
kill
was-
the story. He's not
Yeah.
saying everybody should have or
Yes.
did.
Yes, what I mean is that ideally it should have been killed, but in the concept of what happens in live shows and all that, especially in an unexpected situation. I've been here before when I know we had a rally somewhere, and your boss Emmanuel Juma was telling me, Nani is going live on air. Suddenly he was shouting at some guy, be on standby because sometimes you expect it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this could have escaped in that situation, isn't it?
But from the moment
But
he
we
opened his
all
mouth.
failed. We all failed by running the clip again and again.
Right.
People rushed to prime time and saw it and all that and all that. That was the failure.
Eric, from your standpoint, is this an issue of public interest or just interesting to the public?
First of all, I would say is that it's not a matter of a public interest. Number one, I'm talking about Sonko's statement.
Yes.
And I think this is a huge indictment on the side of the media. Because basically, by right now, journalists should, or the media houses should already have a strategy on how to cover Mike Sonko. Because Mike Sonko's behavior and characters, actually right now, is already known by the media. So it means, like David is saying, that anybody who wants to give a Sonko a mic when it's a live broadcast should be always on the standby, and I'll recommend that Sonko should actually be given a delayed signal, so that in the event that he's making such kind of statements, these statements that actually are not relayed to the public. And I also agree that replaying these clips, actually, it means that actually the media is entertaining the Mike Sonko's behavior. So actually this one is a huge indictment on the side of the media for what happened. Having said that, I believe that Ken Okoth is an elected leader and therefore is a person of public interest. So whatever happens with whatever was going on, the public had an interest and should have known what was going on. And because he was elected, and because when you are elected, you go and you surrender yourself, and you ask people to vote for you and also to trust in everything that you do. Exactly. So the matter that was going on, I think the public had an interest in it and should have known what happened. But the issue is about the manner in which Mike Sonko released that information.
Right.
Yeah.
And perhaps look at one of these stories, because it's unanimous from the panel that you feel it could have been handled differently. And this is just one of them that was done on Friday, August 2nd. This is a day after, and this is on the Daily Nation. My Secret Love with Ken Okoth. And it was basically telling about the affair, the love affair that Andumbi had with the former Mheshimiwa. And even the word itself, affair, you know, is that getting into breaching that issue of privacy, although he's still a public figure? And where do we strike the balance? I'll start with you, Julie.
I disagree completely. He was a public figure because he was a member of parliament. Insofar as he was doing his work in parliament and for Kibra constituency, that's as much as we needed to know. This was very clearly a private affair. Otherwise, we would have known about it earlier. Why is it coming out now when he's dead and he cannot be defamed, you know? So I really do think that, what was your question again about the cover story, Mark?
Well, in the sense, telling this, are we getting into the privacy? Are we breaching or getting into the privacy of people's lives? And are we culpable in any way? Because we would argue this is a public representative and it has ramifications.
I'll take it from this point. From our little book there, the media ethics. When you're covering death and bereavement, you should cover them with sensitivity and discretion. So you should apply your discretion to decide how empathetic you should be to the people who remain here on earth. Ken Okoth is dead and buried. We can't defame him, we can't libel him, he's gone. His wife of 21 years is still here. We're impugning her own reputation by revealing secrets of her family. Leave alone that the child who's alleged to be Ken Okoth's child is also being exposed in a manner which is an absolute breach of privacy.
Okay.
But look at it this way. I think this headline and this story came from a court process.
Yes.
Because I know this lady went to court.
Yes, she did.
And immediately you've gone to court, you know, definitely you also, at some level, then you're also attracting the public interest in what was going on. So immediately she went to court, and if this story, if I'm correct, it came from court, and some of the information that is there actually was derived from the court papers, and when these papers have been filed in court, they are public documents. So at this level, as much as we want to blame the media, but now the way it played out, the media actually had the opportunity to get into this story.
We could have still have used our discretion to decide whether to report or not, and whether to go the salacious way of talking about my love affair with Ken Okoth, etc., etc. What value does it add to life? In which public interest is it for us to know what happened behind closed doors with Ken Okoth?
To me, Mike, Julie, this is how to look at it. This is not gossip. This is not rumor. This is not innuendo. This is story that is taken from documents that have been filed in court. If it was a story that maybe probably we are just insinuating that this could have happened, you know, that one you could, on that one we could blame
It's the framing and phrasing of the story which is problematic.
Are we now intruding into grief and shock? The Code of Conduct speaks about.
Yes, I think we are, absolutely.
Intrusion into grief and shock.
Correct.
Number one, yes, you saw this headline you did about my secret love, isn't it? We saw another headline thereafter about a mother saying, "Why did you ban my son?" Isn't it? I mean, what are you seeking to achieve by that? I mean, a rather honorable gentleman has died and he's been buried or cremated or whatever, and we are causing a lot of havoc because you do this. I have been told even NTV tonight has aired a clip of Okoth with the young boy. He imeonekana twice.
Picture.
Yes, a picture of that.
Picture where he's holding the Jaden.
Are you not exposing a little child to... So the point is now, we have an issue, but are you not dragging other family members? You've seen like the mother...
What to the point of that he brings up? It's in court. And
yes, but the fact that a matter is in court, you know, we don't say that everything you know you must run it, isn't it? The purpose of the Code of Ethics is about discretion and sensitivity, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So it's about, you will know much more than you will put in the public domain, isn't it? So the matter is in court. Mm-hmm. We know the mother and all that, isn't it? But we know that there's a lot of conflict around it, isn't it? There's too much attachment to this. In one forum, there was a strange headline, I think was it this morning or yesterday, about why you burnt my son and all that. And in one forum of journalists, I saw extremely emotional journalists explaining and all that. And you're supposed to know, journalists must find a way of being fairly independent out of it. So I think what has happened is that, because we have our cultures and all that, we have gotten our priorities and professionalism all mixed up. There has been too much emotion, and in that confusion, the Code of Ethics has been buried, and it's been very unfair.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do not operate in isolation. And that's why I'm saying that this matter was in court and it played out in court. And you know very well that matters of such nature, when they go to court, the court actually has a discretion, and sometimes, because there are so many of such stories that actually happen in court and they're not reported. But this matter, actually, the court allowed journalists to cover it. So it means that journalists actually were within the law and the required standards actually that they operate under. What I wouldn't want probably to comment about is headlines that came after the cremation took place. That was on Saturday. But anything that happened between Thursday and Friday, I think journalists were still operating within the required standards.
No one is saying they were not allowed to report. Yes. The matter is discretion. Why are you reporting this story? I know it's a good story. Obviously it is. It's got drama, there's conflict, there's tragedy, there's intrigue. Of course, it's a good story, but why are you reporting it? Is it in the public interest? It is absolutely not. Let me defend that story. You know, this is not the first time we are having such stories. These stories have been there before. Yes. Similar stories, where when a prominent leader or when a politician dies, and such stories actually they came up, and we've covered them. So I don't see why we wouldn't cover these stories. Are we saying we're covering it because there's precedent? No, there's precedent, and there's, you know, once you've, as a politician, once you've surrendered yourself and you occupied a public space, you must also know the consequences that come with that. You don't give up your entire life. Once you become, you don't give up your entire life.
Guys, something of riding this, because Eric is trying to make it look very legal and the court and all that. The Code of Ethics speaks about discretion and sensitivity. It's not in the law. You are not going to be taken to court. It's about drugging an old mother, a widow here, perhaps a child, and very many emotional friends and relatives, isn't it? Because there was, I know the story was juicy because there was a lot of conflict around it. We had, I mean, there was a story about different various places and all that, isn't it? But at a point when we go to sleep on Friday, we do not know where this guy will be buried anyway. I think that's the point where now the word discretion comes in, because there's a child, there's a mother, there is a widow, or there's then another lady involved, isn't it? That's the point where now you don't kill the story, but be sensitive.
The way you frame the story is very
I think
important.
that we are mixing these two issues. There are two issues here. Issue number one, there's a board reporting the death of Ken Okoth, and also the issues that actually also came up after the death.
Yes.
Then there's a second one about the cremation, which also has his own story and his own angle.
Its own issues.
So yes, so what you are talking about, I'm talking about the death of a member of parliament who was elected, and their his constituents also had a lot of interest of what's happening. So that is a different story.
Okay, so you're not talking about the Sonko angle.
I'm not talking about the Sonko angle. I said the Sonko angle, the media actually is heavily indicted on that, because I said someone like Sonko, the media right now should have already come up with a strategy of how they are going to cover Sonko, especially when he has a live mic.
To that, let me direct a question that is addressing that, or questioning that thinking. This is Benjin Dolo. What is it with this emerging and prevailing misplaced culture of political correctness at the expense of truth? What manner should Sonko have used? A press conference after the deceased has been cremated? Come on. In terms of him bringing out what he brought out at that...
Mark, even as journalists, when we are trained, there is a way how we break news. And we don't break news the way Sonko did it. There is a way how you want to break news so that you do not surprise, or you do not actually cause harm. Let me say the word cause harm when you are breaking that news. And what is coming out, that when Sonko was breaking this news, as much as it could have excited members of the public, but we must also know that this news also actually could have also caused harm to other people, especially the immediate family members. So Sonko, being a leader, he should know how he's going to break news. He's not, maybe he might not have the art of breaking news. Exactly. Yeah. So for him, even if he had that information, and I know people have had secrets of people who have died, but there is a way how the news and information is conveyed to the concerned party. You don't go out there and start opening your mouth and you think that that is going to help.
All right, just before I take a break, and this, you said the setting was not appropriate, bringing up all these issues. What if this lady who claims to have a child with the late Mheshimiwa came up right after? She would be, dismissed as either gold digger, and perhaps in her defense, it was very strategic in bringing it up right now. That it gets most attention.
Yeah, it was extremely strategic because all the cameras were on that. Okay, half of them, the other ones were in Rift Valley, but a lot of press was on that story at that particular time. People loved Ken Okoth. He had been ailing for a long time. He had finally passed. It was a national story. It was the perfect time for her to come out. My problem with that is he had a terminal illness. If she was indeed his wife and had born his child, she would have known that he had a terminal illness and he was going to pass. Yes. She had those months or years to figure all these things out. Who's going to provide for my child? Is he in your will if you have a will? Is he going to inherit any of your property? As far as we know, if he is his Ken Okoth's son, he is the only son, biological son, as far as we know. So why live in the shadows until the day he dies and then ask somebody whose place it is not to break the news to announce it on a national platform? It immediately calls into question your motives.
Right. So real quick, first of all, I need to take a break and then we'll just
I know that I think we shouldn't, on press pass, we shouldn't bother about how a politician behaves. All politicians will behave the way they want. We should be very careful about how will we as the media behave. Either we have live cameras and mics or we are doing the subsequent stories, so that we don't discuss about how they disclose. Politicians, we know them. They're going to do whatever they want, isn't it? We are the gatekeepers on this side. We are holding the cameras and the mics and the faders, isn't it? What will we do? And should we already be preparing a certain list of the yellow guys and red guys who, whenever they're on the mic, someone holds, so that you delay? I think that should be. Otherwise, about how people disclose about that.
Well, Mark asked me the question.
Well, yes, I'm saying we should discuss about what do we do? We are seated on this side, isn't it?
And besides, Sonko
what do we do when someone goes haywire? And we know that Sonko is not alone in this list. We have a list of about 4 or 5 who ran, isn't it?
Right.
And I know we have a check, even in this newsroom, about 2-3 people. Maybe we should have included Sonko already in that list and don't remove people from the red list until they have consistently changed. Because I think what has happened here is that politicians shout anything. I know we don't carry a lot of that, isn't it?
Yes.
Now we just happened they shouted and we were not holding the fader, isn't it? We should just be careful next time. I think we should concentrate about
Agreed.
how we...
Agreed.
There's a question, though, of whether there can be distancing ourselves from the allegations, because it played out at an editorial meeting that week that I was part of, and I'll explain, just to see if that's how we could also treat it and let it take a life of its own and report it as it goes on and as it develops, and then get to the facts. Because this story, we'll get to the end of it in terms of the tests will be done, the DNA test will be done, and we'll find out whether it was true or not.
And I think that's what happened. If you look at how the journalists covered the story, other than the live broadcast that came from Sonko, I think journalists the following day, they went with the process that was going on in court and what happened. Then the following, because the following day, actually, the story now developed, and it was about the cremation, you see. So actually, the media has allowed the story to take a life of its own, only that probably there was some disruption within. So
Yes.
we wouldn't want to blame journalists so much, because some of these things, when they happen, we are talking about of unknown right now. We do not have the full information that probably Ken could have had with his mother, the information, the conversation that Ken probably had with the widow, the conversation that Ken had with Sonko, the conversation that Ken also had with Anne. So right now we are reacting to information that actually has been in the public domain. We do not know some of these, maybe the details.
Yes.
So for us as the media, we go with what is there. Probably right now, we'll now be hoping that probably journalists can go again deeper and try to unearth some of this information, what happened. But as the moment, like they say, probably at the moment it could have been wrong for us now to go and start digging